Welcome to Actual Scale Modelling. This is part 6 of Tamiya's US Aircraft Carrier Enterprise, CVN65. Scale is 1 to 350. In this part, I'm going to be concentrating on the deck. So I'll be painting, marking out, and things like that. So let's jump into this and see how well I get on. The first thing I'm painting are the elevator platforms, and I'm painting this in Humbrol's 242 Dark Slate Grey. I was debating what colour I should paint it. People may say this is a little bit dark for the flight deck, but I will be weathering it and it will lighten up in certain places. So I think it's better to go for the dark option as the base coat. On the underside, I'm using Humbrol 127 US Ghost Grey for this, and if you remember, this is the main colour that I'll be using for the actual ship itself. There's little white marks on the deck and the left platforms, and to put them in, I'm using a gun marker, and this one is white. And now I actually forgot that I had these in my arsenal as such. The wife generally uses these, so I've completely forgot all about them. And it wasn't until someone commented on Facebook and asked whether I was going to be painting these markings in or using a pen. Then I remembered. I'm using the pen. Now these pens are quite good. They're designed for figure painting and things like that. But for making very small dots like I'm doing here, they're ideal for it. Onto the main flight deck, and I'm using once again Humbrol 127 US Ghost Grey to paint the edges of this. The flight deck comes in three main sections. This is the fore part of the flight deck, and as you can see there, I'm painting in some markings, and I'm using Revel Aquacolor 05 white for this. Now this is like a long arrow that I'm painting in, so I'm just painting in the arrowhead initially. I'll then paint down the white stem of the arrowhead. Now there's no actual any finesse to this, and as you can see, I'm taking paint off with my finger. Now this is a little technique I use when I don't want the paint to be put down in an even way. I want a solid colour faded in to a light colour, then back again, and I just do that with my finger. Once this is dry, this will be masked off to create the sharp line, but at the moment there's no need for any finesse. On the flight deck, they've actually moulded in helpful little lines for you to follow while painting, so it's not as daunting as it initially looks when you're looking at the markings for the flight deck. They're all there. Depending on how heavy you put your undercoat on, your primer, will determine how well they stand out. So that's something to bear in mind when you're doing your undercoat. Don't put it on too thickly because you could lose some of the detail. Next to be painted in is the registration number, so the 65. Again, with the stripes, I'm not putting any finesse in there. It is clearly marked on the flight deck, the number 65, so it is quite easy to paint in. But don't worry about the mess of it at the moment because it will be masked off and everything will be then tidied up. But there's actually many different stages to this painting of the deck. There's quite a lot involved getting everything put down. This will take maybe a week to complete. So carrying on with the white, as you can see there, I've put on one of the borders. I'm putting on the white flash strips now for the actual runway. And I should point out as well, when I'm doing things like this, I always go for the lighter colour first when I'm painting in the detail, if I'm painting over the top. So as I put on all the different layers, the paint will get darker, depending on obviously what colour scheme you're doing. So I always put the white down first, then I'll add another colour and so on. This section is the aft deck section I'm painting here, and I forgot to record it, but the edge strips on the walkways as such, I've used Humbrol's 87 steel grey for that. It's just the darker grey as a contrast for the actual walkways and so on. and onto the middle section of the flight deck, and it's the same process, painting in the white markings first. Now that the paint's dry, and giving it a coat of Pledge Clear varnish. Now if you're doing this, make sure you're only putting the varnish on the paint and not the areas where you're going to attach something. The reason for that is the cement, normal cement, will not eat through the varnish as the way it eats through thin layers of paint. If you do have this problem, then you'll probably have to use a super glue, but I wouldn't recommend a super glue to put any plastic model kit together because the bond is not brilliant and the slightest knock will take it off. It's better with the actual recommended cement because it welds the plastic, hence it will eat through a little bit of the thin paint. So it's something to bear in mind, but super glue is an option if you don't want to scrape off any of your work with a knife and mark up your deck. That's something to avoid at all costs, really. Now I'm using Tamiya 6mm masking tape to mask up the white area. Now this can take several hours, so you want to leave plenty of time to do this. I'm using a little cotton jig here just to cut the tape into very thin strips, but you can't just lay it on, then trace it around, then cut it with a sharp knife like you would do on a canopy, for instance, if you don't have a tool like I'm using. It does, as I say, take a lot of time to mask off, but you really want to get this stage as best as you possibly can. So once I've got the initial outline, then I'll put more masking tape down to cover the blank spaces there. I was trying to decide whether the 65 should be a solid colour or an outline colour. I've had a look at some photographs and they have it both ways, an outline colour and a solid colour. So I would imagine it depends on what stage of life the aircraft carrier was in. At this stage, I haven't made up my mind how I'll do it, so I'll put it as a solid colour first of all, and I'll see how it is once the masking tape comes off. Now I'm applying some more varnish to the masking tape. This is going to stop any paint bleeds coming once I put on my next colour. If you don't want to put the varnish down over the tape, paint over the tape with your background colour. So I would paint over that tape in white, and that would also act as a barrier, but not too thickly because you would end up with a ridge. So anywhere there's a hard edge, you'll be masking off. So the fore, middle and aft flight decks will all get the same treatment. This is the cotton jig I use. It's an Infina Easy Cut cotton jig. And all I do is lay down the masking tape, and there's various lines of markings all over this, and each line has a little groove inside it. And all you do is run a sharp blade down the groove from a starting position. It shouldn't go off track with your knife, it should just follow the track right down, and you end up with a very thin piece of masking tape. Now they also have jigs for curves to create your own randals and things like that, so it's well worth getting a set of these. I would highly recommend them. I would imagine there's other products out there that can do this, but this is the one I use. So that's the first set of masking tape placed on. So as I said, and give everything a coat of varnish just to lock everything in. I'm using Humbrol's 127 US Ghost Grey once more for the sidewalls of this area. I thought I would do this now before I put down the main colour. And I'm using the 242 Slate Grey by Humbrol for the main deck colour, like I did for the platforms. Now this is probably going to take one, possibly two coats, so I'm going to leave it overnight for it to dry, and I'll see how well it gets on. So this is a good place to end part 6. If you haven't done so already, why don't you check out the channel for my other builds? I'm sure there must be something there for everyone by now. There's quite a wide varied topics. If there is something that you would like to see built, and I'll try and get around to it, mention it in the comments and I'll see what I can do. However, why don't you subscribe to the channel anyway? And if you do, hit that the notification bell. That way you'll be kept up to date, not only with this build, but all my other builds, of course. And you never know, you may get to see me attempt a subject that you're interested in. Hit the like button. Don't be afraid to leave that comment. And of course, you can share the video. But for now, thank you all very much for watching. Bye bye.